Hello, gamers, and welcome. I am Pangoria Fallstar, Forever DM, and build creator.
And I'm Pumpkin, one of his original players in the Children of a Lost Star group. I do stupid things and heal people.
And we're here to review my own creation, Werewolf Lineage PDF, intended to use Ravenloft's Dampier Reborn and Hexblood lineage race models as a basis for a werewolf race, or lineage, as the more we talked about it, we figured out the differences.
Yep.
All
And
right.
depending on how much time we have at the end of this, we may end up talking about some of those differences. But for now, let's just start with the werewolf lineage itself.
Yeah. So first of all, we have it's going to be a humanoid type. Um, there was some issue with doing shapeshifter that I have not fully considered yet. Just because there's a lot of questions about what happens with some of the stuff. So I think by default it technically automatically does shapeshifter with something that I have later on, and we'll discuss that when we get to it. Humanoid, size medium or small, because this is a legacy. You can get gnomes and halflings and dwarves and Goliaths. Anything can become a werewolf. Base walking speed is 30, which means that if you're a halfling, you're faster at becoming a halfling werewolf.
Yeah, I actually ended up mathing this one out. So for any of you listening, you're lucky enough to already know what the answers are to how best to break this to your advantage. Lokatha, Owlin, and Grung are respectively the best choices for a swim speed, a fly speed, and a climb speed. Honorable mention now goes to Githyanki for having an additional language, Centaurs for being able to suddenly climb ladders now, custom lineage or variant human due to being able to start with the skilled feat.
Centaurs still cannot climb ladders.
Uh,
Just letting you know.
is that a realism thing or a rules as written thing?
Technically, it is a realism thing.
Okay, that's fair. I'm
Like,
pointing out the rules as written on this one because
Yeah.
you do lose the feature that would make you bad at climbing ladders.
Yeah, it's one of those things with lineages that even on their own they didn't fully test out everything. So there's a lot of things where I feel like the DM has to step in to correct. So
Yeah,
um,
and
all right.
yeah. Anyways, the last two honorable mentions on the list are possibly Dompier, depending on how lineage stacks. It
Lineage does
should
not
not.
stack. Lineage
It
does not
absolutely
stack.
should not.
Lineage
Yeah.
does not stack. I was telling you this before. Lineage doesn't stack. So
It,
lineage is separate from race. So just with the whole discussion we had, which is why it's not a werewolf race. It's a werewolf
it,
lineage.
I am entirely covering my bases in case there's some rules as written neither of us has found yet. Or
So
some kind of Jeremy Crawford nonsense.
yeah.
Anyways, the last on the list is Simic Hybrid. And moving on.
All right. You said all that before we got to the Ancestral Legacy. You jumped the gun
It was
entirely.
the first thing in my script. I'm sorry.
Ancestral Legacy, if you replace a race with this lineage, you can keep the following elements of that race: any skill proficiencies you gained from it, and any climbing, flying, or swimming speed you gained from it. If you don't keep any of those elements, or you choose this lineage at character creation, you can gain proficiency in 2 skills of your choice. The assumption here, I believe, is that you are a human if you don't pick anything. So, going on with the racial lineage features. There we go. Words.
Yep.
We
Words
have
are hard.
Yeah, we have enhanced senses. Even when not transformed, you have advantage on wisdom perception checks that rely on hearing or smell. Enhanced healing. When you heal using hit dice or healing kits, you have advantage on the healing amount. For each die of healing, roll it twice and use the higher number. Uh, I Now this is a personal thing. I do a lot of custom features that I do. I liked advantage so much that I actually just did advantage on damage for a lot of features. So like cold cold days, your fire spells have like on freezing cold days, like snowing
Hmm.
kind of days, your fire spells have disadvantage on damage, things like that, where I just use the advantage mechanic of hitting, but on the dice. And I liked this kind of thing instead of like, well, if you roll the one, you can re-roll that one, and then you have to take the new roll. If it's a one, it's a one, which is kind of advantage, but it's like low damage. I don't know. It's just one of those things. I just like the cleaner, like you have advantage on it than the wordiness of the other one. What do you think of this one?
I like this feature. It adds a degree of tankiness to this race that honestly should be prevalent in a werewolf. Yeah, you got bit by a wolf, you started transforming knights, and like you should be able to mess up any farmer's day. And if that
Yeah.
farmer can stab you and then the next morning everyone goes, "Oh, wow, that guy looks pretty stabbed. He's probably the werewolf."
But yeah, and then
I
languages, which is because apparently you have to, if you're picking this first, you need to be able to have your languages. So just pick something that's appropriate, and common. All right, next let's talk about that hybrid transformation.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Okay. This is definitely the bread and butter of
Yeah, and
this
I
race.
have
Like,
wolf transformation right next to it. But yeah, the transformations are kind of like the key of the entire lineage because you don't
like
have much of a lineage or a racial features or anything unless you're transformed, and it you start off with a once a short rest kind of recovery on it, and it builds up from there. So let me read the um, let me read it. Hybrid transformation. As an action, you can transform into a human wolf hybrid. This transformation lasts 1 minute until you die or until you revert to your normal appearance as an action. When transformed, you gain natural weapons in the form of a claw and a bite. Your base walking speed is also increased by 5 feet, and you gain dark vision, which allows you to see in dim light within 60 feet of you as if it were bright light, and in darkness as if it were dim light. You can't discern color in darkness, only shades of gray. If you make a claw attack, you are able to bite as a bonus action. Claws deal 1d4 plus strength modifier damage. What is not listed is that it is slashing damage. Bite deals 1d6 strength modifier damage. What is not listed is that it is piercing damage. I assume that most people would figure that out, but that will be added in a future release of the PDF. While transformed, you have vulnerability to silvered weapons. You can transform this way once per short or long rest, and at 5th level, this transformation lasts until you turn it off.
I like this as a character concept, and I like trying to make characters that use this character concept.
Mm-hmm.
I play spellcasters.
Yeah, yeah,
This
uh-huh.
is not a feature I'm going to use a lot,
No, no,
especially
no.
since I tend to end up playing fragile spellcasters who need to not die of silver damage.
Yeah, I
Um,
honestly think that
that
yeah, like your playstyle
being
yourself is really
yeah,
different from this.
yes, and that is going to come up more than a few times. That being said, this is when I'm not playing a spellcaster, this is kind of the strategy I try to build for because it is an
Yeah,
underrepresented strategy that looks super cool and I like it.
yeah. I mean,
Um,
If anything, you get the dark vision. You get to claw bite, which early on a D4 and a D6 might be better than some of your cantrips.
Yeah, this good.
Okay.
Is a good.
All right. Wolf transformation. Starting at 3rd level, as an action, you can transform into a large-sized wolf. This transformation lasts for 1 hour until you die or until you revert to your normal appearance as an action. When transformed, the following is true. You choose whether your equipment falls to the ground in your space, merges into your new form, or is worn by it. Worn equipment functions as normal, but the Dungeon Master decides whether it is practical for the new form to wear a piece of equipment based on the creature's shape and size. In other words, your wolf shape and size. Because you're now large, your equipment doesn't change size or shape to match the new form, and any equipment that the new form can't wear must either fall to the ground or merge with it. Equipment that merges with the form has no effect until you leave the form. Do you have something to say there?
The fact that this is a large-sized creature increases the footprint you affect in terms of things like attacks of opportunity, which means that the wolf transformation combos somewhat decently with Sentinel. Other than that, yeah, this is the Moon Druid's feature, but
Well, it's any druid's feature.
very. Oh, I suppose.
Yeah. Although I have to say, Moon Druid should just be the default druid, and then I don't know. It's one of those things.
We're not talking about that in this video. That's going to be another video,
All right,
assuming
so,
it's another video.
Yeah. You can't cast spells, and your ability to speak or take any action that requires hands. Transforming doesn't break your concentration on a spell if you've already cast. However, or prevent you from taking actions that are part of a spell. Again, this is just the druid wording. I'm like, there's something in the game that already kind of covers this. I'm just going to borrow it.
Yep.
The first time you transform into wolf form each day, you gain half of your max hit points as temporary hit points.
Additionally, your statistics stay the same, but gain half of your speed worth as additional movement.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. That's perfect. So we have those. What do you feel is the best time to gain a bunch of temporary hit points? Like first fight of the day, when you're about to die later, like.
First fight of the day, definitely not. That is the worst time to get a bunch of temporary hit points. I think the best moment is, if at all possible, as prep for going into a big fight, or failing that in like the first round of going into a big fight. Like, if you're going into a fight that you're expecting to suck and you're not doing this, it's either because you've already done it or you think there's another fight down the road that's going to suck worse.
Right.
That is me. I am a cautious player.
Mm-hmm.
If you are a barbarian and you just use all your resources right out the gate, fair enough.
Paladins are very at the gate kind of people as well. So you have 60 feet of dark vision and the same claw and bite attacks as your hybrid transformation, which means anything that enhances those should also enhance your wolf transformation. I think I tried whenever possible to kind of include that, but like there are times where I don't specifically state that the increased damage that you do in the hybrid transformation applies to wolf. It should. So
yeah.
Also, while you're transformed, you have the vulnerability to silvered weapons, and you can transform this way once per long rest. So this is base racial as far as the transformation number of transformations. So
right. Technically, there are ways to transform into this form more than once, which is why there's a specific clause about the temporary hit points only applying the first time.
Yeah, it's That's something that came up in testing and theory crafting it. Finally, a few additional things here. Force transformation. So there are certain rituals and effects that can force you to transform out of your control. During a force transformation, your bite is capable of spreading lycanthropy. And if the target is a humanoid, it must succeed a DC 12 Constitution saving throw or be cursed with werewolf lycanthropy. Just because you are forced to transform does not mean you are out of control, just that the transformation was out of your control. Spells that. Oh, sorry, did you have something on that?
Yeah, I might have to errata a previous statement. So it turns out centaurs can't be werewolves anyways because they're Fey type.
Oh. What? Oh, because it's my thing is for is that you're a
Because it
humanoid.
specifies humanoid, yes.
Right. That is something that I'm gonna have to update on that because technically elves can also become werewolves. There's a whole thing.
True,
So,
but elves are humanoids.
yeah. Well, okay. Sorry. Also, fairies could become werewolves, like in the same way. Like what
Yeah.
what did they make it so that fairies and satyrs and centaurs can't become Dampiers, Hexbloods, and Reborns?
I don't believe they did specifically.
Mm.
But on the other hand, they also didn't include a spread mechanic in any of those lineages. So,
A what mechanic?
a spread mechanic, something that would pass the thing on from person to person and have
Oh,
it daisy chain down,
I mean,
and then the lineage becomes
technically, that's how you become those. That's why you can gain them halfway through your journey. They are spread.
right, but you don't have a method of passing it forward.
Right. It's just kind of built into werewolves. Just using the werewolf monster manual portion of that. So it's you're saying, oh, they don't have a spread mechanic. There is a spread mechanic. It's just hidden. The DM decides.
Yeah, this outright puts it out in the open.
Yeah, exactly. Because if you, there's times where for some DMs, that's why I'm like certain rituals and effects where I'm like, as a DM, you can figure some things out. You guys can figure some stuff out, right? Spells that create lights that are like moonlight, moonbeam, for example. An illusion and an illusion-based magic, first level or higher, that creates an image of a full moon are examples of such effects, but other things can also work. Discuss with your DM about it. Now, one of the things about the force transformation is
This should
that,
cost a resource.
well, yeah, but the reason that you don't spread lycanthropy when you normally transform goes on to a thing that I have in the DM notes section of the PDF, which is to say that you can't lose this. Like, you can't be cured of the lycanthropy as long as the player accepts it. And I have to specify the player and not the character, because your character can be fighting against it, but the player can choose to keep it. That way you can actually play off the storyline of like, oh, this is a curse and I don't like it and I can't seem to get rid of it, while still keeping your character. That was very important to me, and it's very important to be able to protect player choices.
We do not want to accidentally lose our lineage to a 6th level spell.
Right. I don't know who's seen that TikTok video, that clip from that game, but oh my gosh. Finally, we have Werewolf Heritage. Now, this is new and unique as far as the way I like to run things, which is when you choose a feat, you may choose a racial feat from the race you were before becoming a werewolf. They don't have this for Dampiers, Hexbloods, and Reborns. And I think that's a serious failure on their part.
One of many.
Yeah, like there's a lot of like clarifications, like features that were like there because of how the race appears, especially non-human races, should still be kept because that
Um,
there's still that plus this. But they're like, you gotta strip everything off, which gets to the
yeah.
ridiculousness of centaurs no longer being restricted in how they climb.
Yep. Pulling up the two cheese options that I pointed out when I was bringing up what best way to. So grung are one of the better choices for climb speed because they gain a skill, they have a climb speed, and also you get rid of water dependency. And the same is true for Lukatha. In both cases, you get rid of a feature that prevents you from operating on land, and you gain at least one skill and a movement speed.
Yeah, I I, I
Which
don't think like Lakatha's other benefits don't carry over enough. Um,
you lose out on natural armor and advantage on some saves
right,
and
but
the
like
amphibiousness, but
yeah. And then finally, werewolf subclasses. Having the werewolf lineage grants you access to the following subclasses that we're going to be covering. When those
yep.
classes allow you to transform into a werewolf, you gain the benefits from your racial transformation as well as those benefits listed in the subclass.
Yep.
All right.
So, final notes on the werewolf lineage.
Okay.
Prior to,
Moving
and
on.
I understand that I'm giving a preface to the final notes here.
Yeah.
My approach to this is inevitably going to be looking at this stuff with the same scrutiny I would give an Unearthed Arcana. And I feel that's important to mention.
Yes.
That said, the werewolf is a powerhouse of a lineage with up to 2 transformations, access to racial feats, and a regenerative power that all work together to make short races this lineage's bread and butter. Any class can benefit from the healing power in particular with the right combination of effects. Strixhaven's Wither and Bloom, a Healer Thief's bonus action object usage, Dwarven Fortitude all let you stretch your hit points out mid-fight. And without them, you still get to stretch your resources between fights. Not even playing into the main features, which turn you into a literal frontline beast. I mean,
Yeah.
you cannot... The Claw Bite, I think that's actually the most damage you can get at first level, unless you're outright committing to Great Weapon Master or Sharpshooter. And even then, your to hit doesn't get a -5 penalty when you do this.
Yeah.
So, like, there's a lot of early power to this.
Yeah, and that's absolutely true. We on the run we were on the trial run that I did on this, I think the player got it at like level 3, and it was an earlier prototype, so they didn't have like the wolf transformation and whatnot. But the claw bite, I think they were really happy with it. Especially when we get to like the subclasses below, because they were a barbarian. And this whole thing started because somebody said, "Hey, you know what I want to be? I want to be a werewolf barbarian." And I said, "Bet."
I can...
So let's go to Barbarian of the False Moon.
Oh, okay. We're gonna brush right past the rest of it. Cool.
What do you mean? We did the race, and then we go to. We'll come back.
Okay, we'll come back to it.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I wrote a script.
The script is for you to be able to think, and
Okay.
yeah, we'll come back to those things.
To thoughts on stuff. Okay.
Yeah, we'll come back because you jumped ahead a little bit already, and that made things a little confusing. So
I am trying to be helpful, I swear.
all right, so we'll go with the Barbarian.
Okay.
And I think we'll just cover the Barbarian, go back on the notes on the racials, and we'll have to do a part 2 on the podcast because we're running up on an hour. Pretty soon. Okay, so Lycanthrope Frenzy. Starting when you choose this path at 3rd level, you can transform into your lycanthrope forms when you rage. If you do so for the duration of your rage, you gain enhanced natural weapons as claw and bite attacks. So your claw attacks deal 1d6 plus strength modifier damage, which is a bigger die size. And when you use your attack action with a claw attack as part of it, you can make an additional claw attack with your offhand claw. This totals 1 extra offhand attack. Your offhand claw deals damage as if you were dual wielding, which means that if you don't have the dual wielding fighting style, it does not add your strength bonus to that offhand attack. At 10th level, this attack becomes a 1d8 plus strength modifier damage. And then you add a bite attack that deals 1d8 plus strength modifier damage and can be made as a bonus action when you make claw attacks with your attack action, which is part of the base werewolf. And at 10th level, this becomes a 1d10 plus strength modifier damage. Right there, I think that's early on. That extra attack means a lot.
Yeah.
And it really carries the amount of damage you do, just like as a base, without any other additional feats or anything.
As long as feats don't come into the table, this is the most damage you can pack into a single character.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
we've
Into a
mapped
single
it out,
barbarian,
folks.
into a single barbarian.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, and even one feat, like once you get one feat, the zealot, I think, starts scaling it out of control. But
don't bring Great Weapon Master into this. We don't do that here.
I was saying
I
palm.
don't do that here.
I was saying palm, but sure.
Oh right, polearm mastery. That's fair enough. That bonus action attack that's
we calculated polearm mastery does more average damage than Great Weapon Master. All right.
I mean, it's yeah.
I mean, but yeah, without the without feats, this is the highest amount of damage aside from the UA giant. Or it was comparable to the UA giant, I think, is what we figured out. Aspect of the Predator. At 6th level, you gain a magical benefit from your lycanthropy. While transformed into your wolf or hybrid forms, you are incredibly agile and gain the following benefits. Your jump distance is doubled. You can dash as a bonus action. You can move stealthily without giving up your movement speed. And your natural weapons are considered magical for the purposes of overcoming resistance and immunity to non-magical attacks and damage.
Bear in mind, that's while transformed. At 5th level, you get the ability to permanently be transformed into your hybrid form, and this rides that.
Right. Yeah, so this isn't while raging. This is while transformed. So permanent double jump distance, that is a permanent bonus action dash on non-rogues. That is a permanent move stealthy. And that is a permanent magical weapons without being a monk type of situation.
There's only so many things you can stack into a lineage before you have to just make it a class feature. And I think this is one of the cases.
These were all like, you know how werewolves are.
Yeah.
Most of them are barbarian werewolves, and I think that's what I took. I took.
Yep.
I took a lot of aspects of being a werewolf, and I assigned it to them being barbarian werewolves.
And honestly, fair enough.
Yeah.
The most hurtful part of this is potentially missing out on that bonus action bite, because you had to close the distance.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you just have to.
Sometimes you just gotta close the distance. There's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah. But not too bad for, like, if you're permanently transformed.
Indeed.
All right, let's go down to the next one here, which is Instinctive Pounce. This is
exactly the 7th level feature introduced in Tasha's. It is here to explicitly make sure that you have access to it, regardless of Dungeon Master choice.
Right. Plus, it's like really cool. Like it's just like it's just cool, you know.
It's cool.
Yeah, there you go.
You're playing a werewolf. You should get to move when you rage.
All right. So Frightful Howl. Beginning at 10th level, as a bonus action, you unleash a howl infused with deadly intent. Up to 10 other creatures of your choice within 60 feet of you that can hear you gain a disadvantage on attack rolls and saving throws until the start of your next turn. And once you use this feature, you can't use it again until you finish a long rest. So this is a once per day ability.
Crowd control is important. This makes saves harder. Help your wizard banish the BBEG.
Yeah, the making the saving throw thing, like where you're like, nope, you're gonna get ducked up, and 60 feet, like you run in, adds everybody in the room.
Well, up to 10 of them.
Well, yeah.
I'm literally picturing you in particular giving us exactly 11 creatures, just so you can have one guy in the back shooting at us with a bow. I know everybody else is stunned, but I'm still helping.
Silver tipped arrows, of course.
Of course. You have to have silver tipped arrows. There's a werewolf in the room.
I mean, they would have known about you at that point. Now, if they didn't know if they didn't know about you, that's something else. Finally, Pack Frenzy. At 14th level, your Frenzy is infectious to those nearby. Your friends gain advantage against targets within 5 feet of you. You are able to use your reaction to attack an enemy that attacks or is attacked by an ally. You can use this reaction a number of times equal to your proficiency before needing to take a long rest. Your extra offhand claw attacks are no longer limited to only once per turn. Sorry, the screenshots that I took were from version 1.31, and we're actually on version 1.32.
Oops.
It happens. But now that we've covered that, I do want to go back and do a quick chat about the script and about the things that we kind of wanted to talk about. So let's go back to Werewolf Lineage, the racial. What stands out about this race? About this lineage?
I already recited it.
All right. Where's this week?
Okay, I finally get to talk about this. Silver vulnerability doesn't come up a lot in most modules, for obvious reasons. None of your party members should be vulnerable to silver normally. Yeah. A good DM will make note of this thing, which means that your transformations, forced or otherwise, will be capitalized on by any enemies your character makes. The healing usually only applies during short rests. The exceptions are expensive in one form or another. You will go through a lot of healer's kits if you're using the Healer Thief's bonus action. Even half your max HP as temps can disappear quickly when you're a frontliner. That's not even accounting for having a literal vulnerability. And just as a final jab at it, Ancestral Legacy is just poorly designed on WotC's part, and it shows really strongly here. In this lineage we made ourselves and gave a bunch of extra things to that should have just been there to begin with.
Yeah, the racial feature thing, the racial feat thing. So there's a lot of features that get lost. That get lost from everything. So, but yeah. Now, is this above or below other racial options, or just nice to have? So
okay, just sorry, you go. I talk enough.
Yeah, sorry, no. So the question here is more of a: is there, are the other? Is this better than just all the other lineages, or is there anything in the other lineages that are better? And then, compared to just any other race at all.
So I think this is because the Hexblood gets direct access to Hex. Just looking at a baseline fighter, I think a Hex could go toe-to-toe in terms of damage with a Werewolf fighter doing basically the same thing.
Okay. Yeah. So with certain things, it's not necessarily.
I wouldn't necessarily call this better or worse. I definitely wouldn't call it worse than any specific lineage. I also don't think it's necessarily better. I will say it's stronger. And frankly, it's probably just a bit stronger than most races out there at the time the script's being written. Because, I mean, third level feature, you get a burst of temporary hit points.
Like I was gonna say earlier, the force transformation. It's very important that you don't have to spread the disease when you want to do your monster fucking, depending on what kind of table you're running.
Oh my. Okay.
Yeah, no.
We're just going into that then.
Yeah, no, just like, let's be honest, you know. I wanted there to be protection.
Then why did you give it silver vulnerability? Fallstar, what is this?
Just don't use silvered condoms.
But I like the burn.
All right.
Yeah. Anyways, if you're playing a hard war game kind of situation, most of the real power of the lineage comes from the healing.
Yeah.
As of this document, rogues aren't going to see benefits. The claws tax keying to strength. Druids already turned into animals for frontline durability boosting. You have to have a serious gish setup to make this work on a wizard. If you're not planning around the transformation, it's nice to have. You're not going to sit down at the table and think to yourself, I regret picking this race, because it has some stuff to offer, like, even if you're not transforming constantly.
Yeah. All right.
Overall, I give it an 8 out of 10, because it's not my playing style. I wouldn't be sad to have to work with it.
All right. And then let's cover the Barbarian. What stands out with the Barbarian?
This is a beast path on steroids. You get 4 attacks around at level 5, only one of which doesn't automatically add your strength. You get to dash as a bonus action while transformed, which usually means always just bonus action dash. That starts at level 6. 10th level gets you a damage bump through your natural attacks and a single-use bonus action dodge that helps your casters. And then 14th, you get even more attacks, both via your reaction and because you're getting another claw attack. This was originally supposed to be an upgrade to the Berserker. And like that shows in the bonus action attack. It shows in a couple other places, I suspect. Yeah. I wouldn't know. Every time I've looked at this, I've seen a beast path, and that has been unfortunate. The beast path only ever gets 3 attacks around tops, and it doesn't really have powerful late game features. We're not even talking about the temps. I'm a barbarian. Once per day, I can also just get temps when I rage.
Yeah. All those are really huge things, and one of the things to stand out that is in 1.32 is the extra offhand claw attacks are no longer limited to once per round. To clarify this, barbarians get 2. They only get extra attack at 5th level, right? They don't get any other extra attacks ever.
Right.
Okay. So this means that when you get your attack, starting at 14th level, you get your attack, offhand attack, offhand attack, and then bonus action bite, which gives you 5 attacks per round. And if you dipped or if you used one of your feats to be able to get a fighting style and get the 2-weapon fighting style, it lets you add your strength modifier to your offhand attack.
Which is a fairly decent chunk of damage. It's probably the best damage output that 2-weapon fighting has seen in years.
This with 2-weapon fighting puts increases the damage. It increases the damage this does, but almost by the same amount that the Zealot Barbarian gets from Great Weapon Master. Which means that on a feat per feat set, like, this still is outperforming the Zealot. Now, once you get 2 feats on the Zealot, and it also gets Polearm Mastery, the Zealot just completely outscales this, even with the extra offhand attack. Because
I'm not salty about at all.
Yeah, and there's just no other real feats that kind of benefit in the default game that benefit offhand attacks. Of course, in my homebrew, I have a specific feat that I run that would have helped this, but
We can't account for that on our calculations.
nope.
Uh, yeah.
Yeah, so
Werewolf Race is practically designed to work with Barbarian features, and it shows here.
yeah.
So for best results, drop Berserker, pick this up.
Oh yeah.
It just
Yeah,
Berserkers should not exist.
yeah.
They-
If you're taking this and and you're being a werewolf, just take this one as the like, unless you really want to thematically be a zealot werewolf or anything like that, and you're being a barbarian, or other reasons, obviously.
Yeah, there's reasons to do stuff.
Where's this week?
Oh, this is a damage per round barbarian and nothing else. Between the vulnerability to silver inherent in the transformation and the lack of defensive options provided by the features, the only exception being the howl, which is once per long rest, you're not going to be tanking blows that your allies can't handle unless you're lucky enough to go up against creatures that just don't use weapons.
Right.
Even the temporary hit point... Oh, you had a thing to add there.
No,
Okay.
yeah, right. As soon as you're dealing with humanoids that know you're coming and they have silvered weapons, the silvered weapons are negating your rage defense, and you're just coming out normal on damage.
Yeah. I would go so far as to say that this is actually one of the most fragile barbarian subclasses in the game. Forgive a definition of in the game.
Right.
And honestly, that actually... I'd like to see that in the game, you know? Like, there's not a lot of barbarians that really make that trade. They're all, like, really tanky and hard-hitting, and none of them go, okay, but what if I sub that in for more damage?
There's not a lot of ribbon features either. Like, almost everything is kind of geared for you to get in somebody's face.
Yeah. The one quote-unquote ribbon feature you could claim that it has, aspect of the Predator's stealthy movement and double jump distance.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I am going to say it here. In that one specific aspect, Beast Path does it better. Because there's nothing quite like rolling a d20, looking your Dungeon Master dead in the eye, and saying, I jump 30 feet up the cliff.
The beast, which I'm kind of happy. I'm happy that it doesn't fully negate like everything else. Although the conversation we had about the Barbarian subclass in the UA, and you're like, it's just the damage and has nothing, and I was like staring at you the entire time, going, that's the Barbarian subclass that I made. and so I'm like, it's the same criticism here in that,
Very true.
All right.
Let my Harengon werewolf jump an extra d8.
You know what? No.
Aww. Oh, right. Harengons don't get to do that. That's why. Fair enough.
Yeah. Now, we'll have a conversation about your satyr werewolf.
Oh, right. That's the one I was looking for with the fancy D8 jump. Okay.
All right.
Yeah, satyrs can't be werewolves. Their creature type is Fae.
Yeah,
we have talked about this. I am aware that that is not the case. I just had to make the joke again.
Yeah.
Because centaur werewolves can climb ladders.
You know what? Centaur werewolves lose their horse half. They're now satyrs.
Well, no, they're werewolves.
Okay, so I want you to picture that werewolf transformation. That centaur werewolf transformation.
Okay.
All right, because that whole upper body is now a werewolf, and it's still a horse.
Bad horse, bad horse, bad horse, he's bad. I don't know if I just got your video copyright claimed.
That is bad horse. Bad
We'll
horse is
worry about it in post.
lazy. Give him a lick. He tastes just like raisins, and I hate raisins.
I believe we've officially reached the point where we have done everything we can.
All right. Okay.
This has been another podcast with it.
Yeah, what's your name again?
Pumpkin.
Right. This has been another podcast.
It's very important
with Pumpkin over here, and my name is Pangoria Fallstar, the Forever DM. That was weird.
Presumably something.
Yeah, that was weird. The wrong thing happened. Oh no. There we go. I updated things. All right. Some things will have to be edited. Comment, like, subscribe. Here on Twitch, support me on Patreon. Supporting me will also help me support Pumpkin. I'm gonna be opening up podcast specific Patreon channels on that. We'll see you guys. Later. Thank you so much. Bye. Say bye, Pumpkin.